How many you got here, Janet?
One up there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Putting in a different type of food stuff, and then we'll put cyanide back in there again. Put the cyanide in, got the Furotox pills. Each one of these got opportunity, each of these little green ones has got an opportunity to get one if not two possums depending on how they eat it. We put Christmas cake mix in here to mean that the possum's not quite sure what he's eating all the time. Then he'll pick up a Furotox pill and hunch on it, and that'll be him out of the way. We put a little cover of non-toxic lure over the top just to protect it in case the weather goes extremely bad, like we're not here. And the possum will come along and he'll eat the non-toxic lure off, and the flour and mix underneath will be still perfect. And the longest period that we've had that perfect for was up to 40 days, so it lasts a long time once you put this cover over it. We could also be using rat bait now as this top piece, and there'll be sufficient rat bait there to kill quite a population of rats. But this site doesn't seem to have many rats because it has a lot of wild cats here, so there's a balance going on already. We've got to keep on top of the changing of the battery, and these units have had their batteries for nearly a year already, so they're starting to drop out on me. There's a little bar come up to tell me that it won't make another round, so might as well, because I got a battery, so I change it. Ideally I'd be writing the date on the battery as well. Possums on this side already, and I've thrown them over the other side away from the owners, the neighbours' property here, so it doesn't smell. We've got another 2 possums here, they just keep coming. Effectively got enough to kill 14 possums in here, but it will be delivering a new dish every 3rd day. So it's got 2 toxins every 3rd day.
There was 14 here and 8 at the other, so that's 22. These little guys is what we're protecting, and nobody's been eaten, but we've got our pile, lots of possums happening here all the way down. Another one over there, there'll be lots more here, another one underneath down there. So again, every dish we've got 1 piece of cyanide left out of the whole thing. So, been quite a party here.
Oh, you look for tails.
Look for tails.
Okay.
Oh, it's there somewhere. This is the remains one. Ready to go.
On 3 traps.
On 3 traps, 30.
That's 10 a trap.
So the neighbour was an interesting one to talk to if we get a chance later, and he's been shooting possums outside his little house here, and he was wondering how many possums I would find next to him. So in reality we've probably caught maybe 30 or 40 possums
Yeah,
within
his
150 metres of his home. Push them in, or you pass them to me and I'll push them in.
You want to do the trap then, haven't you?
No, these lots here, we'll do this first. What's that? 2,
2.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9, 10, 11,
It's all about placement, identifying where the animals flow in from, and 2,
12,
2 here, 2 in here,
14,
1 back here,
15,
19,
20,
21,
21,
another one,
22,
one recent one, 22, 22 possums, how's that?
22, that's it.
23? You've only got 2 left.
Yeah, no, I have to do another count. How did I lose?
It's just full on, isn't it? And the eucalyptus right here is still good.
8.
So we actually got 7 possums that we did fur recovery on this site originally as well. They're on top of this number. Cyanide, pretty much they are within probably 10 metres unless they got somewhere they roll. They pretty much go up, they bite the cyanide. It might take them maybe a minute or so to realise they probably get a headache. They climb down and they just sit. And then after probably about 2 to 3 minutes, they're non-responsive. So they've gone unconscious, but their body still moves for a little bit. And that's normally the spasming of the body as it's finishing its life is what moves them away from the site. So this particular site, it's less than probably 60 metres from the neighbour's boundary. All these possums is reinvasion over the period of time in which we've been working here, which effectively is the last 21 days. The issue here is not getting rid of the possums from the site, but it's actually defending the area from those that wish to return again. And unless the whole neighbourhood chipped in and did control at the same time, the property owner here is going to forever be fighting an uphill battle to keep possums gone from here. If we were just working with a single trap line through here, a kill trap line, one trap every 100 metres and visiting once a month, we've actually missed all these possums. We've got one of them, we might be lucky to get two of them, but at this particular site all these possums would just walk straight past. Again, I don't see any cat predation here. I haven't noticed any rat predation, but on the next site we go to down in the valley, historically it's had cat predation, so we'll have a look down there to see whether the cat's still hanging around, and ideally we'd set up a kill trap, but we'll see how we go. Cyanide is the most humane toxin because of the speed of death, and that they go unconscious quite quickly. Something like 1080, you could be up to 3 to 4 hours before the onset, and it could be a long time before they actually pass away. Prolifically is up to, which is pest off, it could be up to 14 days before the animal dies. And as you can see, all these animals are coming on site from the neighbours. Imagine if you had prolifically in there for 14 days before that animal stops walking, how many kilometres? They can walk up to 4 to 5 kilometres in a night. He could be miles away and he's carrying a toxin burden. So cyanide in that case, or trapping, is a really efficient system for maintaining them on site. So on this tow tray's got a really good giveaway. It's got little scratch marks all the way up it. We have a look around. That's what I call a scratch tree, and effectively possum scent comes to here. This is their territorial play tree. They come here to play around. In reality, what we're actually creating with our Enviromate is we actually end up creating this play tree which they come to play each night. So after 14 days, the possums going up and down the tree, or multiple possums coming back to check the feeder every 20 or 30 minutes. We've seen rats coming up from below to check the feeder and the possum coming down to chase the rats away again. So it becomes quite a circus when you start watching night vision cameras of what's happening. Oh well, probably what I do is I just throw them out to you. I'll count them.
Oh, I don't mind sticking sticks.
Oh, there's quite a lot up there, the fresh ones as well. So we're dealing with some that we've put in a line from last time, and you see the skeletons from where the cats has been. I don't actually see any fresh cat marks here at this time, other than this particular one here where it's peeled back a bit, but that could also be a hawk. So we had, after 14 days, we had I think nine possums here, and what we've got now is the carry on from that. So that one there's relatively fresh.
One.
We've got another one here.
2,
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Then we've got fresh ones. This one's just been done in the last day or so. 15. That one there is a little bit older. Cat's actually got that one, but that's probably 4 or 5 days ago. There's another one.
18.
And that one's 4 or 5 days ago again. 18 possums here, and check the other side. We've got a little hole where they come through from the neighbours over here. The possums are flowing up this creek edge, so within 30-40 metres of that creek, possums aren't really too keen about swimming. They do swim when they need to, but yeah, the possums will just be flowing through and going wherever they want. So we're trying to stop them on this one. 18. We've still got cyanide available. We've got food in there, and after 21 days it's back to number 1, which was the day that it presented first. If we open it up, we can see whether they found it straight away. If they found it straight away, there were still possums available for targeting after the cycle before, but no, we haven't. So we've actually had, we're getting on top of them. We've had the possum that came last night, this guy, within the last 3 days anyhow, because it's 3 days per dish. Then we've had 1 day with nobody at all, so another 3 days with no presence. We've had someone come and nibble, which is those other possums, so we can actually read what's going on. We've got cyanide still in there, so yeah, we just reloaded again. So again, the only trap that's really on the market, or two traps on the market that I know of that could do a similar job. One is the Good Natured Traps A12. It's got opportunity of killing 12 possums before it goes to sleep. It runs out of gas. Then there's the AT220, which Kevin Baines introduced. He was very good in bringing that technology forward. His trap's got ability to kill up to 90 possums before a recharge. So something like that would be brilliant for in a site like this where the possums keep moving in. But that's $360 for that unit, a single unit. We've got these things out there with the cyanide. We can put in a lot more cyanide if we wanted to. Defeats the purpose, so and it's $140, so effectively 2 of these, or nearly 3 of these, we can get a larger coverage and defend a larger area for the same value. And plus we have the knowledge of what's happening on a day-to-day basis, and we're also educating the possums to come back. If the toxin is not available, they'll come back when the next dish opens. They would have been pre-fed for a few days and keener to participate. The difference being in the use of the system is that with the Enviromate we can actually have 3, one every 100 metres up this line, whereas you'd be stuck with a budget that would give you 180, 220. The possums, unless they have reason to come here, they'll just walk through your line. So it's a frequency. 1080 is really good with frequency. They drop it everywhere. But in this case, if we had 180, 220, it might be perfect here, but we'd have possums bypassing us further up there unless we could afford to have 1 unit every 100 metres at least, whereas these systems are actually there full time. So stopping the flow, and the only thing that the aerial 1080 benefits from is that it can deliver at large landscape scale quickly, all in one go, but it can't give any permanence to the control. So they rely on scale to limit and the control, the distance for the animal to walk into the block. With this block we're less than 1 kilometre wide, so if we were to aerial 1080 this, within 3 to 4 days of the bait getting water on it, the whole property would be reinvaded anyhow, so it's actually a pointless exercise. It's targeting everything, whereas we're targeting particular species here, which is possums. We could be targeting just rats by putting a little plastic piece in here and having a smaller hole entry, so we could actually target rats using 1080 paste if we needed to. But in reality we don't need to. There's no rats present here, and there's first generation toxins that work perfectly anyhow. So no, it's all about management. We got the tools, it's just how we manage the tools. So we can actually just leave a steel bracket. We can pick the unit up, we can move it to another steel bracket every time we come, and that way we're rotating the units around. If we were working in deep forest, that's probably how we would have them at 200 metres apart along the walk line, and maybe walking 10 kilometres to the middle of the forest, and we'd just step the unit every time and place it at the 100 metre mark and we got a new opportunity to target possums and rats then. So it's 18 possums here. If we were to be more careful in how we targeted these possums, there's 18 possums here at $5 each, so there's got 50, you've got $90 worth of possums just on this one site that we haven't collected the fur from or the meat from, because we're targeting the protection of the trees that are here. If we were able to expand our site, go to the neighbours rather than stay here on this boundary, we would actually be able to recover these possums before they got here. With this one there, you can capture the possum with cyanide. I feed our personal dogs with cyanided possums. It doesn't hurt them. It's a first generation toxin that when the animal eats it, it turns to a gas, and it's the gas that kills the possum. So once it's dead, it doesn't go through the food chain. To answer your question, the contractor in Enviromate100, Jim, he says firstly we need to get smarter and trap wiser. He doesn't use toxin at all. He's working with Enviromate at maybe 1 unit per 10 hectares or 20 hectares, and he's recovering both the possum fur and the meat of everything. He's collecting the data so he knows exactly what he's up to and where he is. And he does that with leg hold traps, so he cluster traps. So by cluster trapping, he cleans up his possum population in a very short time and moves on. So it's the same as me putting 2 or 3 cyanide dots in there to catch 2 to 3 possums. He's putting 3 to 4 traps out to do the same. So he reduces his time on the site, which makes his operation more economic. And last year, over 12,500 hectares, he got a BMI monitor average of 7%, which is below that osprey require for TB. So it's way better than a lot of aerial operations. Behind you. We're on the internal now, so one would hope we were a little bit less than the external.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
If you have a look at this tree, we've created a scratch tree. If you come around and have a look here, we talked about a scratch tree just before, and this tree was without scratches before we started. Now look at it, it's become the scratch tree.
70 total for 6 sites.
This one's interesting. We've got a mouse on site, we've got mouse fur in there. We've had partial eating, unlike the ones on the boundary, partial eating, non-eating, cyanide, partial eating, non-eating. We've got fresh possums here, 1, 2, and there's another one around the corner. So they all relate to this eating, but the good thing is that we're getting uneaten areas, so that's actually 9 days. 9 days, and we're starting to get towards the middle of the core. It's not perfectly the middle, but it's in from the main boundaries. I watched one because I wanted to learn what was going on with that possum. He ate the cyanide took him about a minute later, and he sat down and he was just sitting there. He wasn't really stressed about anything, he wasn't panicking, and then he just got more wobbly, and then he just flopped over, and then deep breathing, and kicked around a little bit, and within probably about 2 to 3 minutes he was actually finished. So no more movement, but it didn't look painful. And it's quite interesting when you look at the inhumaneness chart to do with toxins. Cyanide is rated as one of the lowest, but it's still actually, they try to pull it together with 1080, saying that there's not a lot of difference, which in my view there's quite a lot of difference. The thing I would note is that historically possums have been talked as having a home range. As you can see from this footage today, there appears to be no home range in Northland, so all these possums are moving. It's like a liquid flow, so we're dealing with liquid flow, we're not dealing with resident possums here. So that possum would have eaten his poison, and another possum would have come along and he's gone up the tree while he's feeling not so good. And that's why he's up the tree, not on the ground.
12 for site 7, sorry, and it's in total 82 for 7.
So the whole property here is roughly 100 hectares, about 70 hectares is in tree cover. The rest is getting planted, or it might be less than 70 hectares, but the rest is getting planted in eucalyptus and manuka for 1 billion trees. We're working right up to that pine tree area over there. There's like a site of significance for native forest in there. The past farmer had cattle running under there, so we got a long way to restore the underneath, but the top canopy's looking quite healthy. But it goes all the way around and over this other way over here to those big pine trees, and then back to where we came from. We've got one feeder just down here that we're going to go to. On the initial opening it got 7 possums and we're very covered. All the way across here, this grass, we've got feeders along the bush edge to get the possums that come from that area out. And then we just walk back to the car from here. So we've got predation at this site. I'm not quite sure what it is. It might be hawks on that one. Definitely probably hawks on that one. These been here for a while. These are feeding around here. Not so fresh, probably within 6 days. Another couple over here. Over here. And again, we've got 6 days, no visitation. We got cyanide still here, but somebody came and ate, and then we've actually had possums on the other days, and that's a relationship to the fresh ones that we've got here again. So across 21 days we've had X amount of possums turn up again. So the key with this job is there's 500 little pills in here. Each pill costs roughly 40 cents each, so there's $200 in here. Regional council don't give them out free. The client has to pay for these, yet we're controlling a community problem with pests coming on. So the cost here is unfairly proportioned on the landowner that's doing something rather than the landowners that aren't participating. It's ferritox, and it's potassium cyanide, and it's a bit like a pill you'd get from the doctor. You don't even get to taste any flavour or anything, you just swallow it. But in this case the possum bites it, and at the point he bites it, it's no return. Occasionally the possum will pick it up in his mouth and he'll run with it for 30-40 metres before he actually bites it, whereas the cyanide paste, which we have in here, it's more like a toothpaste, and the possums don't generally move far with that stuff at all. But I generally don't use this on a long rotation like what we're dealing with now. The reason being is that the cyanide's sitting there for a long time and it begins to smell a little bit there, so they can detect it. Whereas this way they don't detect it. And in this case, I'm using my specialised mix. It's got a bit of cooking oil in it to make it a little bit more weather resistant. I'm putting it on, and I'm just using icing sugar and flour full of rice bubbles so that they learn to crunch. And once they learn to crunch, well, then it's not so hard for them to crunch a cyanide bait. They actually quite enjoy rice bubbles, and they don't even need milk. But rice bubbles are actually really good when you're working deep in the forest because they're actually quite lightweight and they are bulky, so it means that you fill up your feeder quite quickly, and you also have something that they enjoy eating. The hardest thing to do is to carry a full bucket of commercial lure. It's 10 kg, it's a dead weight. To carry that 10 kilometres into a forest is quite hard work, much easier to carry rice bubbles and flour. Cool, done.
93, 8.
93 possums, 8 feeders.
That was 9 on this side.
Yeah. And Doc says it doesn't work. They won't invest. So the southwestern corner, you see a row of totara trees going up away from us, up onto the skyline, and then that's the southwestern corner. You can see all the spot sprays where the eucalyptus has been planted. Between there and here is our core area. We've got units all through this core area. 1 unit per 2 hectares effectively is what we've got in here. The pine trees getting harvested up there. A hauler working on the skyline, and pests are actually on a daily basis getting displaced from over there. There's no rules or regulations that a forest must be controlled for pests before felling. Yeah, let's skin that one too. So we've got possums in the tree, possums behind the tree. This is the southern boundary. It's an open grass paddock. The possums must be travelling at night maybe 2 to 3 kilometres to get here from this other side. I'm going to skin these two, or maybe not that one, it's a little bit older. But, definitely that one. Some up there, up the top two in the back of the tree.
1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh. 10, 11.
Twelve?
Twice. I got 12 twice. 105, site 9.
Once every 14 days. I work on a 14-day cycle because it enables me to double the landscape I work in. But if I was to put toxin on the 14th day, I'm able to collect all those possums for skins. That's a $5 fur if I'm to take the fur off when I get home. The skin, it's probably a second or a third. If there was a tannery in Northland, the skin's good enough for making slippers or something. It would be, it's a real shame to see them lying there. So again, we've got the evidence of what's happening. We've got 2 days with partial eating, cyanide still there, there'll be cyanide under here still. There's probably cyanide still in that one, there's one there. So in reality we've had 3 days that they've killed most of those possums off it. Actually we've done a 7-day cycle for fur recovery. In that 7 days, it opened at the end of the 7 days and we collected fur from it. Then we went on to a 14-day cycle with 2 cyanide baits each day, and now we've gone on to the 21-day cycle. So what we're looking at is really the damage from the 21-day cycle, and there might be 1 or 2 other possums from that 14-day cycle still remaining. They'll be pretty much rotten and gone. We probably might need to be even closer. We just had 1 dish remaining, so there was a few that were partial, but it says itself. We'll just look what's there. We've got possum each night, and there's 7 dishes, so we've had effectively a possum killed for the poison. On occasion, the possum will scoff more than one bait. It's the same for paste. He might eat 1 or 2 baits straight away before he even feels the effect of the cyanide. So, but the fact that we're still catching them in here, we're probably around about 130 metres from the southern boundary, which is a grass area, and I initially wasn't expecting to have such a flow through there, but the other day I found a possum trail coming from that direction when I was hunting goats, and it's like a main motorway, so I probably need to thicken up the boundary on the southern side next to the grassed area. But the fact is we're killing them, and getting killed on site means that they don't get to eat the trees long term. But it's rather horrendous the amount of possums that we're still killing here. I forgot to turn the dish. Site.
11 on site 10, total 116.
So the limitation in the feeder is the amount of poison that we put in at the start. In this case, there was 21 days with 2 to 3 pills in there. Previously there was 14 days with 2 pills, so there was 7 dishes in there with 2 pills each, which is 14 pills per cycle. So the most we could have really killed was 14 possums at that point in time.
And we could have
we could put 5 pills in each dish, but it becomes very expensive. So it's juggling the population that you think's here and what's moving in at the same time. So and putting adequate toxin delivery to target those possums. So possibly we could put more Enviromates around the edge, closer together, or we could actually put 5 pills in each dish and spin it every 3 days. If we look at these total trees here, there's the one just over here to my right. It's got a really rounded form. It's been browsed by possums for a really long time. It's quite exciting that we've been here 40 odd days, and if we look at this poacher over here quite close up, you'll see there's lots of little new tips growing there. Those little tips wouldn't actually be there if we had possums here still. The possums would be up that tree chewing those little tiny green tips off and keeping that tree totally suppressed. They don't eat the old leaves, but they eat the young shoots. So I imagine when we come back in maybe 6 months' time, there will be a good 150 mils growth on that tree. This is the heart of the block, this one. We're still catching possums here. There's been, looks like another 5 in the last more recent time, over the last 21 days. There's a total of 11 here on site, I think, if I heard Janet correctly. All our dish was eaten, so what it's telling me is that the animals are coming over time. We kill one, another one moves in, or it travels here to find other possums. So it would be good to come back and find this unit uneaten at all. We have done that. It requires working a larger landscape. So it's a real test of boundary control here at the moment.
11.
11. Let's hope 21 days. 21 days we'll have dishes. They'll stop running. Let's hope.
How many trees do we see even around here? I don't see any.
From what we can see here is when we first came in there was 2.88 possums average per unit that we had operating. That's pretty much what the residential population would be before you started creating a vacuum in the flow in. So what that means is that for every one of these units in every 2 hectares outside of this property, regardless of whether it's pasture or tree canopy, we're looking at a flow of possums of maybe nightly up to 2.8 possums per unit. If we were to keep going out, it would make good economic sense for us to do fur recovery down in this area if fur had value at this time.
127 possums, site 11.
So again, we're in the core area. Can't get more core than this, but if we have a look underneath, we can see a cyanide pill there. So it's quite crucial that I bury that so we don't get a poison tri possum. Another possum by your leg under that log. We got a second pill here. What it tells me is the possums have been playing with them. What we're also looking down here is that more than likely it's not actually possums playing with them, but we've got rat poo here. So this is the damage that rats generally would do to cyanide baits as they flick them all out on the ground. The rats seem to detect that they're cyanide. There's another cyanide pill there. It's actually been totally peeled by the rat. It's white now. So most of our effort on this site's been impacted on by not dealing with rats. Next time I come to this site I bring rat bait with me, and I layer it over the top, and then we get rid of the rat presence, and we can then economically resume using ferrotox. So probably on this site what I do is I do it a little bit different. Because of the rat presence, it's a waste of cyanide pills, and I will bury them in a second. It's totally eaten and very, very clean. That's a sign that rats have been here as well. What I will do this time round is we'll do the normal, we'll put the flour in, but I'll use cyanara paste rather than ferrotox, and hopefully the rats will leave the cyanara paste alone. They don't want to play with it as much. So I've got my gloves, got no holes, that's good. You take it out. It's just like toothpaste. So we just get a little bead coming out, and that's all we put in. That's enough to kill a possum. It might be enough to kill 2 possums if it chose to share. So I'll actually put 2 in each one, the same as I would with the ferrotox for this site. I put them to the front half of the dish. That means that the possum can actually reach it without difficulty. If I put the ferrotox or the cyanara paste to the back half of the dish, it becomes a little bit harder for the possums to get there. But ideally I could put rat bait to the back half of the dish, and that would mean that the possums wouldn't eat it as quickly either. So there's several advantages of having the shape that we do. And it's good to mix the baits in case you get one animal that's had a bad experience with one particular type of delivery of toxin. They say 10% of animals are avert to novel things, and hence they'll be quite cautious to participate. So the difference in that price for that Cynara, the whole tube will do up to 600 possums for around $50, whereas that 500 Ferrotox costs $200. So it's a huge, it's about a 1 to 6 cost difference between using paste and Ferrotox. And if you've got rats present, Ferrotox becomes extremely expensive.
So that's 132 on site 12.
So let's have a look in there, watch that Ferrotox, we'll bury him in a second.
136 on 13 sites. 4 here, internal site.
And we're putting Cynara in this one as well. We're within about 100 metres of the boundary where that guy's house was.
Oh, righto.
And we still got cyanide in there,
Yep.
but we again got clearance, and that was the last dish, which was last night, which is that possum there. Not quite the same number as 22, that's right on the outer edges. So if we only had 2 baits available each night, and generally what we in our other studies show that you've got 3 or 4 possums travelling in a group, they might be a few minutes apart, generally males chasing females across the landscape. If we've only got two cyanides available for that 3 days, we've missed that extra one, and he keeps going looking for another one, or she keeps going, and but we've missed it at that boundary. So that's the crucial part, to gear the cyanide to the flow of the possums, and down here that's what I'm learning about.
142, site 14. 6 possums. That's near the boundary.
We did a trap Enviromate study in the middle of Puketi on warrior kill traps, and that was done in 2016. My business partner calculated that the Enviromate with toxin in was 625% more efficient per visit than what the warrior kill traps were. So you got to work out efficiencies and or cost to capture, and that's where we are at the moment, as we are trying to work out the cost to capture. There's many systems out there, but some of them are pretty expensive per capture. So if you've only got 3 possums per hectare, and you drop in a trap that can kill 90 possums, that costs 360, what's the point of having it there if it's only ever going to see 3 possums on that site? You've got all the other time it's just sitting there redundant, and nature's not very friendly on things that sit for a long time in the environment. Trees and sticks and stuff fall on them. So with the Enviromate, we prefer to leave them there to the point of we're not capturing, and then we move them on again. So the capital's actually getting moved across the landscape quite quickly, and we can clear large areas very quickly.